I'll call it care package for lack of better terms, but like all their snacks and treats to like people who had tickets for $150.
Yeah,
You get this whole spread of like pimento sandwiches and the whole nine.
Greg was asking if anyone ever went to the Masters. Greg, I get a phone call every year from this woman offering me a townhouse on the course for me and my corporate team, but I just haven't done it yet because it's like $1 million or something like that. I don't know what it is. I'm like, I think you misinterpreted me for an actual large corporation. I'm just a, but every year. All right, here we go.
Here we go.
Starting the show. Pay attention. I got something for you. Hey, are you a retirement plan advisor? I got a secret I need to share with you. It's really, really important that you pay attention to me. If you hear about PEPs, pooled employer plans, you need to know that aliens are behind it. Okay, they're trying to control your mind. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Let me show you. I've been working on something here. So it all started when the spaceship landed back in 1967. But John Sullivan was there. And he hasn't aged one bit. So it's 2020 now. I don't know how many years that is. My math isn't good. But that's freaky, man. And then there was the regs themselves, which are really just a secret alien message about mind control. That's what they want. The FBI, the CIA, the NSA, the KGB, UFOs, they're all behind PEPs. They're all behind PEPs. And then there was the grassy knoll, November 22nd, 1963. Oh, the grassy knoll has nothing to do with this. Never mind. So you need to watch out. They're going to control your minds. They're going to tell you it's about lower fees. They're going to tell you it's about getting rid of your fiduciary responsibility. And the biggest hoax of all, they're going to tell you it's about the retirement plan gap. That's not true. They want your millions of dollars. The aliens do. Watch out. I gotta go.
Wow.
Hey. I don't know who that guy was, but that's
I
kind
want to
of
know where you filmed that.
no, that's a video that's been going around the dark web. I don't know. I just thought it was something valuable to share with a guest. The guy's a little weird.
His name is DJ, not JD.
I don't know, but a couple of things he's saying, I think he kind of makes some sense. And the guy's so fucking handsome. How can you not be into what he's talking about? So, you know.
It was hard to see all the redness in the video in the messed up light, but he did look very handsome.
That reminded me of the Blair Witch Project for sure.
I saw someone say, "What's up with Strange Brew?" So good. I don't know. That accent was a little. Oh, I forgot. Mark's too young to know what Strange Brew is. We've already discussed this on the show. Welcome.
Is that a new micro beer I should know about?
No. Welcome everybody to another episode of Retireholics. We are so glad that you have joined us. Sorry about that little conspiracy theory, but by the way, I have heard that aliens do not like alcohol, and that might explain John Sullivan's Heineken 0.0s. I'm thinking
dude, your red strings are really attaching on that wall now.
Yeah, they connect the dots. We got a special guest. We got a special guest right now. He's thinking, or when that video is playing, he's like, "What have I gotten myself into? What am I doing here?" Because this is a professional and established man, the CEO of Aspire Financial. Pete, welcome to the show, buddy. Thanks for showing up.
Thank you. Really excited to be here.
He's lying already. He gets here and he's already full of it.
Yeah.
Before every show, we got to do a little bit of housekeeping.
Housekeeping.
No, thank you. Sleeping.
No, thank you. Sleeping. Make sure you are in gallery view. That's the best way to do this, but you're all vets. You've been here before. You know how to do that. Yeah, we're going to have a chat bar champion. Of course, we're going to have a chat bar champion. So let's make it legit, man. I got some PBRs here. I got some vodka on tap. We're going to make this show a real ruckus. So I want the chat bar to be ruckusing it up with me. And win. That's a word, Mark. Why are you, Mark's always judging me? We also need to have a word of the episode. We're going to have two. I'm dropping it on Brandon for the first time. After reading Pete's dissertation, I'm going to go with employee and participant. And if you say employee or participant, you must drink from your nasty drink. Or I've been told if you like it, then maybe it's not nasty. But, you know, the tough stuff, the hard stuff. I've got mine mixed with a little cranberry, but
I actually found a shot glass tonight.
Let's dive right in to the show. Topic number one. And I'm excited to have someone who, for 2 decades at least, has been running a record keeping shop. And I think more important than that, started running a shop when things were a little different back in the late 90s, early 2000s. You know, if I think back to those times, record keeping was dominated by mutual fund families and insurance companies. And if you think to the late 90s, there's probably a ton of proprietary investments going on. We know for sure as you go into the early 2000s, even if the menus of funds started to open up, these were funds that had revenue sharing in them. There was pay to play stuff going on. Like it was kind of a treacherous, lack of transparency world. So I think 2002 was the date. I've read something on the website where Aspire was kind of written up on a tablecloth at a restaurant. Is that true? He's nodding his head yes. All right. Let me ask you, Pete, when you're writing on that tablecloth and you're prepping to start this company with a few other people, I believe, help us understand that. But were you looking to mix it up and attack an industry that you thought was wrong? Or what was the inspiration to start Aspire? And I know it's named something different then, but.
So first of all, you picked 2 brutal words. I'm probably gonna be hammered, and I definitely didn't grab enough with another drink. But yeah, it was interesting. I was out. So just to give you a little background, my father, and I hate to use the term failed entrepreneur, but unfortunately went bankrupt. And I said that I would never be an entrepreneur. I saw everything get taken away from us. This was like when I was in college. So they took house, car, all that stuff. And I was selling the investing software up in New York City. And Mike Godfrey was with a guy I work with. And Mike and I were out, and I got to be careful. I don't want to pick on TPAs because there's a lot of great TPAs out there. But we were selling this record keeping software to TPAs. And we just happened to hit 4 TPAs in 2 days. And a couple of them weren't the sharpest tools in the shed. And Mike looks at me, he's like, dude, we can do this. We got to start our own business. Because they've got boats and cars and houses on the water. And I said, Mike, there's no way I want to start my own company. And I said, all right, here's the deal. If we find a source of revenue, I'll do it so that we're not like totally jumping off a cliff. And then that's when.
Source of revenue as in like an investor of some kind?
No, like a client.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. So we're not just like hoping somebody will come to us. So so this is where the restaurant and the tablecloth came from. We're in San Francisco at a conference, and one of the investment clients calls me up and says, hey, I got this deal that I want to talk to you about. I need your help. So we go to this nice swanky restaurant in San Francisco, not just a tablecloth, but a white linen tablecloth. And we're sitting down with James. Mike and I are sitting with James, and he explains this broker dealer that wants a private labeled 401k offering. And Mike looks at me across the table and just starts going like this. Like,
we could do that.
What we're waiting for. This is our revenue stream. Then we told James what we were thinking of doing. And James is like, well, I want to participate in that too. So then we got the pen from the waiter and start drawing the first, really it was like the first ASP, application service provider in the industry, which is basically where you have all the technology in the cloud. Our industry was perfect for it, as opposed to having everything installed on the local server or a laptop. And so that's what got things going. And then from there, we started the company in 2002, got to about 20 plans. We're like, man, this thing we're not going to make it. And lo and behold, a broker dealer out of Dallas, Texas was having trouble with, do you remember a company called Goldkey way back in the day?
Yeah, I do.
They were having issues with them, and they wanted me to come out to Dallas to do a demo. And I don't want to monopolize the whole 60 minutes. Like I could tell you some funny stories, but I flew out there, and like the movie Gung Ho, I felt like if I didn't.
When you do a demo, Pete, do you bring the tablecloth, or does that you've evolved since then?
Okay. That's just a picture of the tablecloth. I'm not sure if we had something about that, but so yeah, I went out to Dallas, did a demo, and they gave us 350 plans. So we went from 20 to 370 plans, and it kind of got us over the hump. And that's before we got on. We were talking about bundled versus unbundled. We were unbundled, but then they said, well, if you want this business, you have to provide both. So we went out and hired a gal that was a TPA, just so that we could offer that service.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's just been, bootstrapping the whole way. I mean, my wife hates.
You didn't give me the. I love to hear that history. That was cool. You didn't give me the answer that I was trying to plant in your brain, though, which is, did you see these like insurance companies sharing revenue and putting funds on their platform as like the evil empire, or what do they say in Star Wars?
I learned about, it's funny you said 2002. I learned about rev share. Oh no, actually it was 1992. Tim Friday from Mid-Atlantic came and presented to us down in Tampa. And, but it was really after we got started, JD, that I realized how like sleazy parts of our industry were. And that's when we kind of created this clean fuel alternative before that was even a term. And we always were transparent from day one. We always believed in transparency. The other thing we did that was unique was a capitated participant rate, which
There we go. I was about to plant one. I was going to plant a trap, but Chad, when I first ran into Aspire, they were I'll let him drink his hard alcohol, but they were, to me, were the first product I saw that was not a mutual fund company, not an insurance company, offering at the time a flat fee to do record keeping, that doesn't grow as the assets grow, and had true open architecture, meaning you could just pick any fund you wanted. And I don't know how long ago that was, if it was 10 years ago, 12 years ago when I was first getting, seeing it, but I was blown away because you didn't have a lot of things like that.
What's interesting to me in hearing Peter say that is that initially I would have thought, as you did, JD, or at least as you set up the question, that this was about driving down costs and revenue sharing and too much money being moved back and forth in an industry where TPAs had yachts and sat in beach homes like you described earlier. That doesn't exist now. But clearly it wasn't. You looked and said operationally and perhaps even functionality wise, this business is weak and we can be better. That's really interesting for me to hear, because I would have thought the exact opposite, coming out with an open architecture, flat fee structured.
Or that tablecloth had a lot of spilled red wine on it and they were just hammered.
They got away with all the money was to be made.
Can I ask you, Pete, did you ever, as you're creating this, how do you call it? The green energy thing, the fuel, what do you say?
California, clean fuel alternative.
Clean fuel alternative. I like it. Did you ever have moments, you or the people that you were working with, where you felt like, geez, man, there's a lot of revenue to be made with these funds or these share classes or these fixed options? Was that ever did that ever like want you to go over to the dark side?
Absolutely. Constantly had that dangled in front of us. And I would even tell you that when we took in private equity, one of the partners who was also part of Financial Engines, he's like, guys, we got to be charging an asset-based fee And we reluctantly introduced it for about 3 months and got our teeth kicked in on the 401k side. And we called it revenue share administration fee, which.
When was this?
Yeah.
Oh, like 2012 or
Yeah. Okay. I know. Hey, I was cool with that. I was like, all right, these guys, it was like single digit basis points you guys were trying to get your hands on.
Yeah, but we retrenched pretty quickly because we tended to attract the purists of the, people that are using Vanguard and Dimensional, and all of a sudden this basis point fee shows up for revenue share administration when there's no revenue share in the funds that they use. So yeah, they told us how they felt about it, and we changed course, or course corrected, I guess you could say.
We can move. Yeah, go ahead, Chad.
I had a question. It's something that I've never really been able to mentally answer, and I think this will lead into other topics later. But for folks like Aspire who had no asset gameplay in the past, and there are many others now that are competing against you in that same space, is there an upside for plan size and asset growth? Is there a way in which you guys are planning to create target date funds or proprietary? Like what's the next step for this flat fee business that
Good question,
has been flat and has no play in the asset growth? There's got to be something behind the scenes there.
There's, on the investment side, there's money market opportunities, stable value opportunities where you can create something and get a small asset fee by offering that. I would tell you it's absolutely a game of scale, which is no surprise to anybody on this webinar. More and more and more participants. And I'll tell you the real, all right, so.
That's you, Pete.
B word.
Pete, you drink, and I'm going to throw another question at you based on Chad's.
I'm not answering any more questions.
How do you feel? So you're saying it's about scale, which to me, you're answering Chad's question by saying we're just going to keep doing what we're doing, but keep growing. How do you feel about the current group of self-proclaimed kind of 401k disruptors, the guidelines, the human interests, shit, I'll even throw Aaron in there, the Vestwells. These companies are getting huge VC backed capital and are offering what I would argue to be is very kind of cheap, flat fee. So I don't see a future for them, but I'm smart enough now where I've learned that they're not in it just to do what you just answered, Pete. They're not in it just to scale their cheap fees and grow to this massive record keeper. They're in it for other reasons. How aware are you of those other reasons? Can you talk to some of those? And how do you feel about these new 2.0 versions of disruptors?
So that's where I was going before you made me drink again.
Perfect.
Cut me off. It's the data. Thank God.
I knew it. It's the fucking data.
Yeah. If you own the participant data, you can slice and dice it and serve it up 9 ways.
You're going to store that one. Store it up.
No.
Store it up. Drink
Pete,
it later.
Continue your thought. Leave it to the side. We'll make sure you drink it. Keep going.
You said those 2 words. I just think there's an opportunity, and it doesn't even have to be in the retirement space. You think about shelf space, and this is totally, completely different discussion, but it's germane to what we're talking about. Here in Florida, there was a company before Walgreens called Eckerd's, and there was a cigar manufacturer that started selling hydrogen peroxide on their shelf because they could get shelf space. And it's the same thing with participants.
Great analogy.
Yeah, there's so many buyers for participants. Oh, geez.
Oh, that's a check swing. You only owe one. That was check, right? Yeah, check swing. Check swing. That's phenomenal that you're telling me it's participant data. That's what I thought. That's what I knew. Did you answer?
JD.
Oh, shit.
Somebody's joining the club.
I'm going to leave the cranberry over there. My question is, did you answer, Chad? Are you guys looking to shift towards using participant data to generate revenue? That's my question.
Say it one more time.
Are you going to shift to that new model where you're going to use the people and the plans data to your advantage to make some money?
Our first goal would be to better support the advisors and TPAs that we work with.
Spoken like a CEO. Now answer the question.
As far as that data, picture a stick figure, the data surrounding that.
Yes, good.
Yeah, so that would be the first goal. We haven't thought that far ahead, quite honestly. I want to make it sound some vision.
And you guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but PCS as an entity, after the acquisition last year, does have some asset play in their pricing.
Yes, that would be actually two. Advisor trust. What you're seeing a lot of record keepers do now is have the trust company component.
Yeah.
And then the Matrix, MATC, Schwab is a sub-custodian. And so in our case, advisor trust takes on the trustee component.
I want to get to a little quick game, but before we do that, can I ask you the PCS acquisition and Aspire? It was all very visible. We're all very aware of it. And I would think it was really cool because it brought you all to a new level in terms of size. But I still feel like Aspire still exists and PCS still exists kind of separately. Is that the long-term goal or what's going on there?
It is. And I wouldn't say it was. What we realized, Aspire's got good brand cachet in the non-ERISA markets, 403B, for instance. Nobody knows who PCS is in the K-12 space.
Okay.
So we didn't want to get rid of Aspire, and now we're into HSAs and simple IRAs and SEP IRAs. And so we decided to preserve the Aspire brand. And we've got two record keeping systems too. So what we're doing there is driving all the data to a central repository so we can serve it up from one place. We deal with a multitude of third-party data aggregators like RPAG and Allbridge.
You're not supposed to call them RPAG anymore.
They get upset with that.
Vince doesn't like that, Pete. We're going to tell on you.
All right.
No. I did. Someone very cool in my life did tell me you guys are big in the non-ERISA 403B space. So, okay, you keep the brand. We're never going to see this conglomerate of PCS Aspire, at least from a branding standpoint. You'll stay separate.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, that was Kate, right? I think I saw that post too.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're in like 6,000 school districts. So you think about all the things you talked about, what we did before. Well, imagine taking that to K-12, where the common investment is a group annuity with 3% expense. 3%, not 3 basis points, 3%. So here we come rolling in, Open Arc, Vanguard, Dimensional, getting institutional share class for under 10 basis points. It's unheard of. And you really got me thinking about my words before I say them now.
No. Yep. You got to speak freely. Speak freely.
Wait to your next Zoom meeting when you start doing that too. You're speaking to a group of folks and you start questioning whether or not to say participant.
I know.
There you go.
I need it a little bit.
Yeah.
Hey, what is the other word, by the way? I forgot. I'm not trying to bait anybody.
It's it's EE.
Yeah, EE.
Oh,
EE.
Hey, any form of it counts. So don't watch yourself.
Hey, I was going to spread these out, but let's just jump straight to some fun and games. We've talked a lot of shop here. We're halfway into this sucker. Let's spin the wheel of ice. And just to remind everyone, this wheel of ice is a real deal now. It's not just going to land on Mark every time. So I've got my Smirnoff. Pete, you don't have to worry about this. You're free. You're off the chain here. But let's spin this wheel and let's see who's going to lose.
The wheel of ice.
Nervous.
What? See what you fucking is doing now.
That his six were going to last 3 months.
Oh my God.
I knew it was Justin again.
How many, since we changed the wheel,
Since we changed it.
how many times has Justin got it?
Every time.
3.
No, you're
In our live show.
Chad won.
I was live show.
No, but remember I had the tall one too.
Yeah.
Hey,
Justin's got two times.
To let everyone know, there is a panel on there, a little slice that says everyone. And so where we all drink, and I'm looking forward to the day that one happens. Let's keep the fun going. Mark, we play a game. Tell Pete what the game's called and explain the game.
There's not much to explain, Pete. It's simply called the lame game.
But it's so not.
The rules are simple. I'm just going to ask you some questions, and Pete, I'll always come to you first for your answer. And it's very, very, very quick answer back. You're going to just tell me, is it lame or are you game? That's how it makes sense.
I'll give it a try.
Okay, just like I tried to read your dissertation, I made it through like 3 sentences, and then I literally gave it.
Did you get to the Dilbert cartoon?
Yes.
Is that the
If I would have gotten there, you would have known for sure.
I got to the part where you got their approval to use their cartoon. Okay, go ahead, Mark. Sorry.
All right. My first question is, now that we've crossed into November, I think these things are starting to happen at a rapid pace, and I get concerned when I see things so early, but decorating for Christmas before Thanksgiving is even here. Is it lame or are you game? Pete, I'll start with you.
I'm both. It's lame, but I did it in our summer house. Sorry. This tree's already out.
At least you're honest. I'll
Right.
give you that much. Okay, Chad?
I'm going to go lame. That's a tough one for me, though.
JD?
Because there really isn't is there a Thanksgiving decoration scheme? Is that like
It's fall, bro.
fall? You put leaves on your kitchen island or
There's some
something?
Pumpkin spice
Oranges and
everything.
brown.
Yeah, no. You don't put up your Christmas shit until after Thanksgiving. Lame.
Okay, Justin?
Same thing. We can after Thanksgiving.
All right. Next question. Daylight savings time. Pete, is it lame or are you game?
Lame.
Chad?
Lame. I need more early morning golf hours.
But that helps right now.
Justin? Yeah, no. I was like,
Yeah.
It's earlier. It's lighter earlier right now, Chad.
It gets
Not
light
early
earlier.
enough.
let's just move past that. Remember
There
that
is a
Chad
time in which it
completely
flips on the
botched
other
that.
side, guys.
Hey, smart with plan design. Regular life, not so much.
There is a time where we do spring forward, folks.
I think
It's lighter
Chad-
in the time of the year. Game.
Fair enough.
All right, JD.
Yep.
I'm in my garage right now, and it's lame. It's getting dark right now. I'm not a fan.
All right, my next question comes in the form of a picture. I'm not even going to ask a question. And thank you. Shout out to Will Hackler, who sent me a picture after our last episode when I asked the audience, hey, you got some ideas for my game that apparently JD thinks sucks these days. Let's bring them in. Bring some. And so he went out on a limb here. So obviously, Pete, I can tell you play golf. You had a Titleist hat on. Audience, maybe some of you golf, maybe you don't. But if somebody was on a golf course like this, hold on.
Oh, shit.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
See that?
Wait, is that branded Titleist or is that his golf bag? Oh, no, I got it.
Golf bag.
Yeah.
I thought he had a Titleist like motorcycle scooter.
So my question just becomes about that picture. Is that lame or game, Pete?
Good one, Mark.
Still gonna go with lame.
Ooh, them's his fighting words.
Ouch.
Chad?
I'm game all the way. That looks like a blast. I could ride to the golf course in that too. Sign me up.
JD?
Super game. Golf needs new shit like that. I love that. That's cool.
Justin?
Game, especially after rocking these guys this last week.
Yeah, you can't
Yeah,
really
the
tell,
surf
but
one.
Gotta zoom out.
It had a cooler on it. Did it have a cooler? Because that's kind of
Well, I didn't notice a cooler. That's a
I'm not
that's a key
really
component,
sure.
though.
Mhm.
yeah.
Hey, when we did the scooter surfboards this past week, there was a cup holder on it that Mark taught me has an over-the-top latch to hold your beer in place, which was
Smart.
Old
fantastic.
cocktail, but
Oh, I didn't know
all
that.
right. Last question. self-promotion on LinkedIn.
Oh,
and
Mark, you're so
specifically-
sweet. You're so sweet. I send Mark text messages giving him examples. He never uses them.
Hey, I'm trying to save my job here. Okay? Folks who I would say, okay, they announce their awards, they announce the kudos to themselves. Lame or game, Pete?
Unlike LinkedIn, yeah.
On
I,
LinkedIn.
I'm going to go game. And the
Okay.
reason I'm going to go game is for you guys, there's a lot of, we have a phenomenal chief marketing officer, and she puts a lot, in fact, she might be watching right now, so I got to make sure I say that. So, you know, your marketing team puts a lot of heat on you to self-promote because at the same time you're promoting the company.
So I would say, do we give us some specific examples? Like if you win like top advisor award and then you post it yourself with no context or no nothing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's lame.
Chad,
Lame as well.
JD.
I feel like if Chad made like top 40 TPA sales, whatever, he would post it in a heartbeat.
Nope.
But-
I
but,
would call JD and I'd say, JD, post this shit.
Okay, well that's good
And
because
you
Chad,
share it.
I ain't
That's-
posting it.
that's
got
what I was-
friends.
that's exactly what I was gonna say. I think that if you won something, the better move would be get your company, like Pete said, he did the reverse, but get your company to post it, get your buddies to post it. But posting your own award is just fucking silly.
Agreed.
Unless you're Jania Stout and you made the cover of a mag. You make the cover of the mag, you self-promote that stuff.
You make the cover of the mag, you promote it.
Justin.
Yeah, baby.
Depending on the frequency and the award it is, I could be game. But if you're just throwing regular shit out there that's random, no.
All right. Well, you know what they say.
We do now.
You know what they say.
Pete, do you know what they say?
I have no idea what they said.
Yeah, me neither. Me
None of
neither.
us do. Mark,
Me neither. But I did send all of the boys a copy of your dissertation right before, it was about 2 hours before the show. And I said, hey, everyone, I need you to review this. I failed to let them know it was some 70 plus pages long, but why don't you set it up for us? Tell us about the dissertation that you did. What are we there? Brandon's got a little visual for everyone.
All right. So the dissertation, I was telling these guys earlier, I got my Doctor of Business Administration, which is different from a PhD in that it's scholarly research to solve real world problems.
Doing business as.
Doing business as. You're trapping me. You want me to talk about my dissertation, so I say that word like 8 times. I'm certain
gotta find an alternative.
It's part of the topic, Pete. It's part of the topic.
I'm going to navigate through this minefield without doing it. My dissertation was on how to drive higher retirement plan adoption with small employers, being 50 employees or less, with the goal being to figure out how do we solve this coverage gap. And what I did was created 2 what they call artifacts. And really what it was a script followed by some education, and then followed by another, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 questions, and then graded based on that individual's specific situation, which plan type would be best for them. This was all based on nudges. So it was either 401k, simple IRA, payroll deduct IRA, or no plan at all. One of the key tenets of nudges is that you have to preserve freedom. So you can't take away the freedom of not choosing a plan. And so going through that was pretty fascinating. What I found was that it was, what I called it was an adaptive default nudge. A default nudge is like, think of Austria, where you get your driver's license and you're automatically an organ donor. That's a default. An adaptive default nudge takes into consideration your specific situation and modifies the nudge to your situation. And what I found was that everybody, and it was a small sample set because I did qualitative research, not quantitative. So my sample size was 10, but I did some pretty in-depth interviews. What I found was that almost everybody selected the plan that was recommended to them. The other interesting thing that I found in my research was that there's a huge, and Brian Graff talks about this all the time. There's a
And
huge-
Pete, or I should say, Dr. Pete, can I clarify for the audience? You're in there talking to small business owners
small business owners.
and probing them, not probing them, that's an alien thing to say, asking them questions and trying to figure out their decision-making process and getting really deep in all that. Again, a probe analogy deep. Sorry. Continue on, Dr. Pete.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I did. I tried to find out what their biggest challenges were in running a small business. But one of the things I found, which probably won't surprise anybody that's listening to this right now, is that there's a huge information gap. I called it information asymmetry with small employers as it relates to retirement plans. And the reason for that is, this is what I did find, most employers get the preponderance of their information. See, I'm still using big words. You haven't hit me hard enough on the liquor. They get most of their information about retirement plans from financial advisors and in some cases TPAs. The problem with that is that financial advisors typically won't go downstream to a 10 life plan because why?
There's no money in it. There's no money in it.
Exactly.
Cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the
Exactly. And so, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, they got to make a living too. And so my thought was that what if I could deliver that education via my artifact, and trust me, it was down and dirty and quick, but educate the small business owner on what a simple is, what a 401k is, what a payroll deduct IRA is, to the extent that they could make some semblance of an educated decision on which plan made the most sense for them. And yeah, it was fast. One thing I will tell you is that they're scared shitless of fiduciary liability. I mean, that's just like when you explain what that is, they're like, nah, I want no part of that. And maybe I didn't explain it, or maybe I was, I don't know. But yeah, it was an interesting finding there too. That's the whole thing, which was ancillary discovery, I guess you could say.
So I think I do mean this from the heart. I think this is really cool that you're able to go in kind of from a different perspective, if you will. You know, I think Chad, Mark, Justin, myself, people attending today, we do our own analysis of decision makers all the time, right? So if you're in a point of sale and you're trying to sell plans, you get a feel for why people do or don't. But for you to go into all these smaller plans that don't make decisions to have workplace retirement plans and to actually ask them questions in a comfortable, non-selling environment gives you a different vibe, right? You get a different opinion from them. But how would you respond to this? Because I've always been a little, I guess, nonchalant about this. Like, okay, there's these, what are the stats? Like how many companies out there don't offer workplace retirement plans? Like 50 plus million or something, right? And,
Yeah.
and I think like, okay, well, it's a little flower shop on the corner that's owned by this person. They got 3 employees and they're just trying to make ends meet and make payroll next fucking week. They don't have time to figure out what kind of retirement plan they're going to offer their clients. And I could go down the list with all kinds of analogies to that flower shop. But am I wrong? Is this a bigger problem? And am I being an asshole because that person that works for that flower shop deserves a 401k plan? You think of all the people, I'd be the one to say they do, but I'm kind of sitting here saying they're not ready for it yet. Dr. Pete?
They're not, but that's the thing. So the mistake you're making is you're thinking myopically 401k. There's other solutions out there like a payroll deduction IRA. And the reason I'm saying that is because studies show people are 15 times more likely to save if it's through payroll deduction. So at least give them the opportunity to save for retirement. And then if the flower shop becomes 4 flower shops, and now they can put in a 401k plan. But you know, you're right. It's only 3 people. But if it's millions of companies with 3 people, now you got a problem.
And Pete, you're right. I do myopically think 401k all the time. The term IRA never runs through my brain, but go ahead, Chad.
It does for me. It does for me though, JD. And that's something that the guys talk about as well, which is what's the right type of plan for a startup business or a business looking to add this feature. But my question for you, Pete, then would be, what's the difference between a payroll deducted IRA and a 401k? Operationally, you still have to make sure that you're doing things right. You're deducting what a participant tells you, dang it. What a staff member tells you they'd like to withhold from payroll, there would be not necessarily any company contributions that need to go in the plan. So from a 401k perspective, you have the same obligation, maybe a slightly higher cost, which we could go into that. But operationally, it sounds like in your dissertation, the issue was we've got shit to do running our company, and we don't want to spend our time running a benefit plan. And so a payroll deducted IRA or a 401k or a simple, which has a match, all of them are going to create that obligation. And so I feel like, and hear me out 1 second, I feel like the payroll deducted IRA has very little services support. They're on their own. At least in the 401k space, they get a bundled provider, a TPA, an advisor, perhaps someone in there that's going to take some accountability to help make sure that they're doing things correctly. And that's where I see a benefit in the corporate retirement plan space versus a payroll deducted IRA.
No question. No, absolutely. It's just you're going to run into, and that's a great example. The 3-person flower shop. You're just looking for the ability for a stick figure to say.
I can't believe his word for not a stick figure, but I love it.
And hold it up to save on a payroll deduction basis. And the other thing I would tell you is that a lot of the stuff that you just described is with technology. It is completely automated these days, where a participant makes the contribution, it gets pulled.
I'm surprised EE hasn't popped off more, but that's just me.
Doesn't roll off the tongue as easy.
I'm a huge fan of the 401k, and if you want to get into plan design and really you talk to the employer and they want to set up a certain type of plan that has all these different things that they're trying to accomplish, you can't do that with a payroll deduction IRA. That is just lean and mean and is just simply designed to let somebody save on a payroll deduction basis.
Hey,
that's it.
Dr. Pete, I'll tell you what's going to solve the retirement plan gap. What's going to help all these companies without retirement plans because they can't afford it.
PEPs.
It's the PEP, bro. The PEP has thrown on its red cape and it's coming to save all of these little businesses and their little no asset startups. Tell me, you must be excited about the PEP. When does the Aspire PEP come out, or is it already out? Talk to me. Tell me the truth.
All right, busted. We've got one in the works, but I would tell you I'm not the biggest fan of the PEP either.
All right, Brandon, play the music. Let's end this fucking show. No, it's all good. Keep going. Keep going.
I think they've been oversold. I think there's a lot of people out there that act like they're the be all end all, and they're not. One of the things that I found in my dissertation that was kind of fascinating that I wasn't even looking for, because if you're thinking PEPs help small employers, what I found in doing my research is that small employers tend to be leaders, not followers. And there's a nudge they call social norms, which is where, like, if we all got together in the bar and everybody said that's red, and you're thinking to yourself, that's blue, eventually you're going to say it's red because everybody else is saying it's red. Well, with these business owners, they're like, no, screw that. I want to do my own thing. I don't. The reason I'm telling you this, if you're going to go out and sell a PEP, you better not go sell it like, well, everybody else is doing it, so you should do it too. That is, you just ain't going to sell it.
Yeah. I've spent a lot of time thinking about PEPs, and I've never thought never crossed my mind.
So video was proof of that, JD.
My what? Oh, that wasn't me. That was that conspiracy guy.
No, you will never tell them. If you go to small business owners and say you should do this because everybody else is doing it, they're going to tell you to go fly a kite.
What do you think about this, Pete? The conspiracy guy said it at the end. He said that the biggest hoax is that they're here to save the retirement plan gap. And I've been talking to lots of PEP providers through different Zoom calls and researching. And every time they show me their hand where they're not really interested in startup plans. They're interested in winning existing business with assets in it. So
Absolutely.
what the fuck?
We've had a lot of people express interest in PEPs, and not one of them has been for a startup. It's always been to aggregate assets. Every time.
That's a problem. That's a big problem to me.
You're just moving quarters around on the table at that point. You're not producing new quarters.
It's a
Terrible.
very
Get my
Chad.
I hadn't thought deep enough about kind of what Pete was just saying there, which is we're moving quarters around the table, not creating new quarters. If we are trying to narrow this gap, they should be highly focused on the startup community, highly focused on the startup community. But the truth is, you're right. Every person I've talked to that's looking to start a PEP is about asset aggregation. They're going to advisors and they're saying, if we want to start, how many plans can you bring in? What's the asset level that you can bring in so we can price this thing accordingly? Let's get assets. I've never heard a single one talk about creating a startup program specifically to narrow that gap.
It's just a new mousetrap to, like Pete said, to shift the quarters around. Like, it's just something that they feel like, oh, everyone's talking about it. It's in the headlines. And then they're branding it with this low cost, which I've already told everyone at nauseum is really not true. And then they're branding it with fiduciary responsibility. And I'll try not to get on my soapbox here. I'll leave that to the tin-foiled hat gentleman. But you can help your fiduciary responsibility with a 338 outside of a fucking PEP and a 316 outside of a fucking PEP. And everything that they're doing, there's nothing unique to what. Anyways, my bad. I'm sorry. There's nothing a motherfucking PEP can do that a regular 401k plan cannot.
Let's get JD off the PEP conversation for a second.
And it's not gonna help the participants.
Have you ever used PEP as the penalty word?
We should.
Been told
Well, Pete,
it's only JD that does it a bunch.
Pete, when you get a chance, and you're back at the office on Monday, go to www.pepssuck.org. because there's a lot of good people there doing the Lord's work. Yes, Chad.
I know you've got a couple other topics you want to cover, and we're running late. I do have something very specific I want to ask Pete. No, not yet.
Oh.
12 minutes left. But in the micro space, which is what your dissertation was about, like the getting people to implement plans. What's next? I know. Let's leave the PEPs aside, but specifically from the advisor community perspective, are advisors going to have a space in the micro market, or are we going to see robo-advisors, PEPs, these things that essentially are trying to cut them out? Are we going to see those take over? Because you said it earlier, there's not a whole lot of money in that space. So are we going to see folks dabble in that, or is the industry going to change and it's all going to be automated in that section?
I think a lot of it will be automated downstream. You could create, because I've thought about that. I'm always thinking about what's my next life look like? Do I want to be a financial advisor? And if I did, I would absolutely service this small micro market, someday when I retire. But it would be something that it's practically impossible to deliver a high touch model and make it scalable down market. You have to kind of robotize it, so to speak.
You have to create efficiencies.
You do.
Which is where using record keeping services to bridge some of those gaps, enrollment support, tech-based financial wellness tools, and perhaps charging flat-based costs as an advisor in that.
Yeah.
Can I say something on flat-based costs?
Yeah.
This is just an aside, but I got crucified back in 2004, 2006. I was on the TD Ameritrade Advisory Board, and we were one of the first ones to charge that per you-know-what fee. And man, I'm getting good at this now, JD.
Stick figure.
And
Change the words.
guys are like telling me, hey, you're moving my cheese, man. Like that. But my point was, if I do the same thing for somebody with a $500,000 account balance that I do for a $50,000 account balance, why am I charging them 10 times as much if it's the same amount of work?
Oh shit! I wanted to ask you that. We're gonna hit a little potpourri. That was one of my questions. I'm gonna hit you with. You got Potpourri. But before we go there on this, you not being able to service the micro market. Call me an old school guy, but I feel like right now the micro market gets serviced just fine. So as a TPA, how many startup plans will the three of you guys sell in the course of the year? A lot, right?
A lot.
And do you think the fees to those plans are reasonable? Or do you feel like the record keepers ripping them off, the advisors ripping them off? No.
It's a loss leader for those record keepers. They're not making money.
But those options exist for these small employers. There are people there ready to help and support them for a variety of reasons. There are TPAs there doing the work. There are record keepers that have razor thin profit margins that have come to the table with solutions. So I just not believing the hype, to be honest with you. Like and by the way, when you come in your guideline and you come in your human interest and your betterment, and I look at your pricing and what you're offering, and I compare that to the old school model that exists today, I really don't see that big of a difference between the two. And I'm a small business owner myself, so I think I have a right to this opinion. You know, I've got 25 employees. I don't mind spending $3,000 extra in a year on something that's going to benefit my employees if it's the right thing to do. And so I just don't think that the problem is what guideline and everyone's trying to fix. I think the problem is more your dissertation, Pete, and less what guideline thinks you're going to fucking do.
Yeah, which I didn't see you going there, JD. I was going to completely disagree. I think the micro space is underserviced. I think that the costs are low, that the margins are incredibly thin, that most of the record keepers, TPAs, advisors are not making money on supporting those businesses unless you're selling ancillary services like we talked about with the data. But I think in that space, it is underserviced big time. And Pete's dissertation shows it. If people would spend the time consulting with those small businesses up front, they would have fucking plans. Yes. People need to understand why they need them, what the benefits are.
All states have plans right now. If they felt that they were being serviced appropriately, you wouldn't. California, Illinois, Oregon, on and on.
Yep.
I agree with you guys without a doubt. But I mean, Chad, how do you, I think the biggest problem is it's not obviously we all know it's not attractive to advisors. So how do you overcome that and get them to start paying attention to that? You know,
oh my God, I'm going to be quiet. Go ahead, Chad.
I think it can be, Justin. That's where we talk about.
But yeah.
But let's talk about the way it is, not where it can be. The way it is right now is that the community that is selling those micro market or startup plans, they're selling it because they're friends with the business owner. They go to church with the business owner. They golf with the business owner. They're not the Kates of the world. Not to pitch Kate up a little bit more. They're not the folks that say, I want to help, so I'm going to do it. They're doing it as a byproduct of the relationship, and therefore they don't service the relationship. And so the only way we can bridge that gap is having record keepers and TPAs that are going to step in there for the independent advisor and say, hey, here's the online enrollment videos. Here's this kind of service that we can deliver that's going to bridge the gap that a really solid advisor would be doing for you. That's the only feasible way I see it happening.
Or we jump on this bandwagon of selling other services and doing other things for those participants. And then the regular Joe or okay, all right, I'll put that on the hopper here. Then the regular Joe or Sally advisor can go down and sell a startup plan that's got, 15 that's a check swing, 15 stick figures, and they can make money through some other things. So anyways, I want to move on, but I don't believe it. I don't think that we don't have solutions for the micro market. I think we do.
Not that we don't either.
And I think that the bigger problem is what Pete studied so hard, which is how do we educate and communicate to the employers that they have options, that they can afford those options, that the administrative burden is not that much, and that in the end, they'll be doing a whole lot of good for the hardworking people that are working for their companies. We need to keep pushing that. Let's go to a potpourri. This is going to be our last segment of the day. Pete, we're each allowed to just basically ask you whatever the hell we want, okay?
I'm not a beer,
I
but
So
constantly forget that we do this.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
you can come up with it on your feet,
Yeah.
Mark. I will start with how much has Empower offered PCS and Aspire for your record keeping business? What was their offer on the table? Geez,
Wow.
they don't see the value in you, apparently. I don't know. So.
no, not a zilch.
Okay, well, since that one's a dud, let me back that up. What is your net worth? How much do you make per year? And what kind of car do you drive? Chad, go ahead. You can go.
I was going to say, look at Mark thinking. Mark's getting nervous there. If you could take over, and this probably will be one you won't answer, if you could take over any record-keeping platform in the business right now as the head helm and make any changes you want, what would it be? Who would it be?
I would probably, I look at a lot of the investment providers that provide record keeping, but you have to take their investments, and it just drives me nuts. And so
Good answer, Will.
I would want to go in and change them back to what we are, which is completely independent, conflict-free, and give participants the ability to choose investments not predicated on the platform.
These are publicly traded companies, though. Their investors would eat you alive.
That's a proper CEO answer.
Yeah.
I'm with Will Hackler. I'd take over Fidelity. Fuck it.
Yeah, I'd take over Amazon. No, actually, don't do. I'm gonna get into record keeping any day now.
Mark, have you come up with a question off what you've been thinking about it?
Google or Amazon entering the
How about sports? Throw some sports questions at me.
Oh
Come on.
wow, we could be here all night. If that's
fun.
I'm playing Mark tonight. I need to know if I should start McKinnon. My
Game already started. It's too late, buddy. Sorry.
Okay, well, I put him in.
Damn it, Chad.
Yeah. My question actually is something that I like to dig into our guests a little bit to research you. I saw that you're involved in a nonprofit that Chris Godwin started for looks like adopting animals. I looked down that list of the advisory board that Megatron, good old Calvin Johnson's on that sucker. Do you know all these people? I mean, yeah, I'm just like,
yeah. Once at a kickoff event, but I've met Chris a number of times, and we're not to take in a different, similar direction. We have a small zoo here. We've got 3 dogs, 2 cats. My entire family loves pets. And we're thinking about fostering another dog. God bless us.
Dogs are the best, man.
They are. I love dogs. Less of a cat person, but I still I feed them. But yeah, Chris is a great guy. Phenomenal receiver too, by the way. Once his finger heals, you'll definitely want to put him in your lineup.
yeah. So before we finish there, real quick. Thoughts on Antonio Brown, and in how many weeks is he going to be back? Looking for a job.
Holy shit! What's the sound for Sports
I
Center?
hope.
Dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun.
I hope his first game back that he just runs like Forrest Gump's it, catches the touchdown, and just leaves the stadium, and then just leaves forever. Like I'm so tired of that guy.
I always worry about chemistry. It's just it's cliche-ish, but so important in business and in sports. And the only thing that makes me feel better is that Brady will shut him up or kick him out. And
they did try that in New England and it failed, right? Yeah,
yes.
just saying.
Did it?
They had Belichick. It was never given an opportunity, Mark.
Yeah, he got cut right away because of that.
They released him, yeah.
Because of his actions. I thought you meant.
Okay.
Anyway,
He's a nutcase.
Is Sports Center is Sports Center over? Can I ask him a question about 401k?
oh shit.
Yay, sports! Go
It's Justin's
sports!
turn. It's Justin's question.
Mark, I just assumed Justin didn't have a question. Justin, what's your
I
question?
actually did.
All
He
right,
already-
actually
he already
do.
said it. He
Go.
does it like this.
So like Mark, I went down the personal route and kind of dug in a little bit. You mentioned something about being into Brassfield. How did you, the band out of the up and coming band out of Nashville, how did you come across them? Because I couldn't find them anywhere.
No, you still find them very easily if you Google them. We
Well,
didn't.
Google. Like iTunes, Spotify, stuff like that, you can't find them anywhere. I'm like,
Yeah,
Oh.
Use the internet, Justin.
yes,
well,
no,
shit,
that was
you're lost.
That was an interesting okay boomer, okay millennial kind of thing that went on there. Like Justin's like Spotify, they're not on Spotify. And Pete's like Google them, they're on Google. All right, go ahead, Pete. Sorry.
So to answer your question, we did an event in that. Remember when Napa was in Nashville in 2016? We did an event, corporate event, and we had like Kenny Wayne Boyd, I think was the guy who won The Voice. And then Brassfield was the warm-up band, and Brassfield stole the night. They were amazing and super cool. And we just became really good friends over time. They come down here all the time, play gigs, insanely talented. And they just cut their first EP, 5 songs. They're going to go out to the record companies now. And just, they deserve to make it. They are just insanely nice people and really talented. So yeah, they're real good friends.
Will Hackler just called my father-in-law a gut. I'm sure he's trying to type guy, but yes, I know. Papa, no one goes to the Q&A. We're all in the chat bar. Come on, we talked to you about this last week.
But he asked you about sucky puppy in the chat bar and you didn't respond. So
sorry. JD, can't you train him? Well, no, I can't. I have a question. It's not about sports or bands. You guys still do private label stuff for advisors. So if I'm an advisor and I do my due diligence on Aspire-PCS, I like what you guys are doing. I can slap my own logo, my own name on that thing and kind of build my business that way.
We don't call it slap, but absolutely. You can people work with you. Here's an interesting thing, JD, that I found last year. As I was going through the DBA course, there's obviously different types of classes. One of them was business analytics, and we got to play with this software called Tableau. And the assignment that I did, I thought, well, let me look at wallet share for our clients where we have private labeling versus where we don't. And I was blown away that it was like 80 to 100% wallet share for those that we private label versus those that we don't, because everybody wants to see their own brand. And we do run into people that say they don't want a private label because they want to maintain independence, blah, blah, blah. That's great. But for the ones that we private label, as long as you deliver service, it's amazing what that does. It's really a cool thing.
We, Chad and I recently did a panelist deal for the Excel 401k digital series conference. And we had an advisor on with us, and he came up with something that I call Andre's conspiracy. And that is that he likes the idea of using a TPA versus a bundled record keeper because he feels as though the bundled record keeper, as we move forward into this, and I'll save this, I'm going to do this on purpose, this participant data.
I got you, JD. I need one.
Okay, thanks, Chad. I'm
going to participant too. There you go.
He feels as though maybe he's losing a little bit of his control over his clients because the record keeper is so visible. The record keeper is so powerful. The record keeper is so involved. And therefore, he likes the idea of using a TPA because he feels more in control of his own clients. I would say the same thing could be true if he was to private label with a company like yours. And so I just want to throw that out to you. Like maybe that's something to think about, this conspiracy of advisors wanting to keep their clients under their umbrella as we move into this kind of how the data is so valuable world, which we're clearly heading into. Maybe Aspire needs to kind of market around that or use, that's just my tidbit to you. You can keep it for free, Pete. Take your company to the next level. I don't know.
I feel like Pete knows.
No, here goes. My wife just started her car. That means it's the end of the show. Pete, we can stick around afterwards and chat it up a little bit if you'll hang out with us after the song, okay? If you're willing to do that.
You got
all right.
For the uncomfortable song, though.
We need a chat bar champion. Who's it going to be? I am not voting for my father-in-law.
I've got Josh in my point scale. He was out to an early lead, but then died off late. Oh, look.
All right.
Josh, too.
One vote, Josh. Justin?
I'm going Hackler. Definitely not your father-in-law either after that comment. Jeez.
What did he say?
What a dick.
What did he say?
The Packers are boring.
Oh, he's a Vikings fan. He's a
I
Vikings
miss
fan.
Paul Senior.
Oh,
All right.
shit. I can't talk shit now.
One vote, Will, who's a past winner. One vote, Josh. Mark, who's your vote?
David K. It's my BFF.
David K. Spreading the love around.
I thought you said JFK.
All right, Pete, do you have a vote for your favorite
that a
person in the
funny
chat bar?
Well, I saw Kate say something like, Pete, we need to talk. So I'm going to go with her.
Oh, you just threw me the underhand right over the plate and knocked that sucker out. I'll go Kate Clark. Kate Clark, the CBC champion for the week. Although, Craig Eddy, I love you, buddy. I love you, man. I'm so sorry for everything I've done to you. Okay, let's, hey, everybody, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate it. Come back next week. We'd love to see you. Pete, thanks for being with us. And again, Pete, stick around for the